Can cats and dogs coexist together? This is not a simple yes or no answer. They are two totally different animals with two different personalities. Sometimes they don't blend. Under the right circumstances, however, many cats and dogs can live a harmonious life together. Let's discuss it. You are now rocking with the Cool Cats and me, the D.E.V. When bringing a cat and dog together for the first time, the introduction is the key. Most cats can get along with a dog if they have time to adjust. If you have a dog that's already an established member of the household and you're trying to introduce a new cat, now this can be a challenge. I would also like to stress that if you plan to have a cat and a dog in the same house, you should do some thorough research on that dog's compatibility with cats. Some dogs have an extreme prey drive, and no matter how much training you give them, they are not a good mix with a cat. Now, on the other side of that coin, the easiest introduction is raising a kitten and a puppy together. Again, depending upon the dog breed. If they grow up together, they can be the best of friends. They don't know any better. Now, I've got an interview today on this very subject, cats and dogs. So I've got to get ready to be on my way. Wait a minute. What's up, Batman? I've been looking for this guy. You heard me calling you? I got a new joke for you. I always bounce jokes off of Batman. He lets me know if I should use them or not. So, Batman, how do you find Will Smith in the snow? The Fresh Prince. About to put it down for him.
The one and only D.E.V. Well, I'd like to get straight into it if I may.
Let's do it.
All right. When attempting to bring a cat and a dog together for the first time, what do? I mean, what are the first steps?
Now, when you first introduce a cat and a dog, make sure they are at the same eye level. And you and a family member should keep a firm grip on both animals. If one of them seems either aggressive or frightened, remove the cat and try again later. If you do this for a few moments, several times a day, pretty soon they should be feeling more and more relaxed around each other.
So, how do you handle the fights in the beginning?
You should never leave a cat and dog alone without supervision until you are sure that they are comfortable with one another. If you walk away while they are still in the filling out process, one of them could get hurt. Even if there aren't any physical scars, one of them could get mentally traumatized and end the possibility of them coexisting right there. that animal could remain terrified of other animals for the rest of his life because of the experience.
So, what if they just won't get along?
Now we know how finicky cats can be, and both cats and dogs have individual personalities just like we do. Sometimes cats may get along okay with dogs in general, but just doesn't like that dog. The same way one of us may get along with most people, but somebody just gets on your nerves. It happens, especially with cats. You have to have a plan B and sometimes a plan C. But most of the time, when there's a problem between dogs and cats, usually, not all the time, but usually, it's because of the dog. Dogs, as I mentioned earlier, have a higher prey drive, and they will instinctively chase after smaller animals. One way to curb this is through obedience training. The dog must be taught that this is unwanted behavior. But again, this is dependent on the dog breed. Some dogs are bred to hunt, and their prey drive is too high to train out of. Do your research.
Is there a way to manage this? Like to keep it moving in the right direction?
You should always have established safe spots where your cat can run to when it feels threatened. Your dog must not have access to these safe spots. Usually these spaces are somewhere up high. Remember that cats and dogs are both territorial animals. You should let them have their own separate territories by preparing different eating and resting spaces for them. Also, cats and dogs rely heavily on their sense of smell to assess things. Early on in their getting to know phase, you should swap scents between them so they can get to know one another. You can temporarily swap their bedding, or you can rub a towel on your cat and place it next to your dog, and vice versa. Doing these types of things will expedite the process of them getting to know one another.
Okay, that's good. Now, how do we manage us? I know I'd be a nervous wreck with them going at each other.
Keep the situation positive. Avoid fussing at either of them during this big adjustment period. If you fuss at your dog, for example, he may think it's the cat's fault that he's getting fussed at. And this negative association only increases the tension between your dog and cat. When one of them is being friendly towards the other, encourage and praise them. This will encourage them to repeat this behavior.
Well, I've got one more for you. And we want to thank you so much for your time, Dad. It's been extremely helpful.
No problem at all.
But what's the best situation one could attempt to bring a dog and a cat together?
Okay, so let's look at the scenarios in which cats and dogs could come together. Now, all of them can work, but some have a higher success rate than others. First, the puppy and the kitten. As I mentioned before, this is the best case scenario. They can grow up together and form a close relationship. Next, the adult cat and puppy. This is also a highly successful scenario. The puppy is too young to know anything, and the cat usually feels less threatened. A very playful puppy may require more supervision early on though, because it may just get on the cat's nerves. Next, the adult dog. This can work too. Like puppies, kittens are fearless and active. Adult dogs are usually okay, but it depends a lot on the individual dog. Another consideration is even if the dog takes to the kitten, it can hurt it unintentionally. So it is recommended that they are kept separated with only supervised playtime until the kitten gets along. And finally, the adult dog and the adult cat. Of course, this can be the most difficult, but it can be done with them having a proper and very careful introduction. Now, I've got a question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure, what's that?
How do you find Will Smith in the snuff?
I'm not sure.
The Fresh Prince. Now, always remember to treat all of your animals well. They didn't ask to be there with you, but now all they have is you. Treat them like family. Fam.